Hello and welcome to another Because Miami. Billy Corben has an enormously busy week and month because he's got a new documentary on the Falwell family, religion, and politics debuting within the next couple of weeks on Hulu. So he'll be here in a little bit to not only spook you out with a Halloween story, but also to talk to Naomi Feinstein about yet another weirdo that is trying to make their way into Miami and Florida politics. But before we get to Billy Corben and a story from his childhood and the general spookiness of Halloween, is anyone in this room doing Halloween big? I know that Jessica has felt a little bit alone in our group. I know that we are dressing up on Monday. We've got a lot of grid of death punishments that are going to end up being paid on Monday, and me and Valerie bought Stugotz his costume as well.
Did you really?
He was
Wow.
he was very grateful that we did that. He might be less so when he actually has to wear it. A lazy Boog Shambi once sent me out to get his Halloween costume, and I made him a giant heart with red legs. You don't farm that out. You don't outsource it. Jessica, have you been met with any kinship around here with people telling you, I want to do Halloween with you. I want to dress up. I want to go to Lincoln Road. I want to go to Vizcaya. Or is everyone just staring at you and saying, I'm watching Monday Night Football?
Everyone's been ignoring me except Tony, who just wants to go binge drink, which, I mean, that's not the Halloween that I'm used to, but I guess I'll accept.
Binge drink? What is that supposed to mean?
You want to go to the Grove, do a Grove Halloween.
Yeah, Coconut Grove.
That's a good party.
It is a good party.
It is fun.
So you have one responsible beverage when you're there?
I used to live there, Mike. I
know.
see you
Per
questioning
hour.
me. But
No, you're fun from like 25 years ago. It's a different type of
it's
fun.
a different kind of fun.
It's like
Sorry.
a deep house party.
Yeah, it's nice.
Keep reminding me that
Boiler
I'm
room
old.
vibes.
Thank you. Yeah.
It was strange that you jumped in there on how fun Coconut Grove is on Halloween when it's...
It was 20 years
it
ago.
Was a sen-
I mean-
You got the guy with the parrots.
They have Halloween back then?
I mean,
The waiter at Johnny Rockets comes, makes a little smiley face with a ketchup.
blessed. I mean,
Was Halloween even invented?
Jamaican Paul is actually still there. True story, I believe he gave me COVID.
Is Manny Puig still there?
No, I haven't seen him lately. Used to be in my family, man.
For sure, Jamaican Paul, though. Still in the same outfit. I don't know why.
Who else among us is doing anything? We've got the obligations of grid of death punishments for work on Monday, but all of you now, or most of you, Jessica still hates kids, but you guys are of an age where I would imagine it would be very fun to walk a kid around a neighborhood. Stugotz used to, 10 years, I'd say. Some of the happiest, most blissful days I saw Stugotz is when he thought about that evening, walking around his neighborhood with a gin and tonic in his hand.
a big gin and tonic, G&T.
For 2 hours, just letting the girls run around and grab free candy from everybody. As he, it's Stugotz's dream scenario. People give me things, and I just walk around with a drink.
And a joint. What? What?
There it is. I've got Stugotz awkwardly hanging back from his kids. And it's like, where's Dad? And then it's like, I smell
Halloween
him. There he
smells
is.
like marijuana.
Yeah. I'm taking Claire to a trunk or treat that my church is actually doing. So that's it. That's all we're doing.
What's a trunk or treat?
So a whole bunch of people get together.
Not a
They get
fan.
not a fan. They get the cars, and I guess they just give out candy. There's going to be
Out of their
bounce
trunk?
house. Yeah. It's going to be a
Do people
bounce
So
house.
there's no
and everything.
tricks?
Do people dress up?
Yeah, the kids dress up. Yeah.
Good.
It's usually a fun time.
Good
so.
churches. You never know with churches and Halloween. We can go other ways.
Yeah.
My church tended to make me fear all Halloween type things. The sermons were fire and
Really?
brimstone. Yes.
Because I feel like some churches, I mean, I grew up Catholic. It's probably one of the spookier religions, right? I feel like Halloween was very of the vibe of Catholicism, the darkness and the scariness.
Yes, but they prefer, I would say, having grown up Catholic as well, when the darkness is working on your side of things. I, of course, any dark forces that lured me toward candy were my religion. Probably don't need to explain that. But Billy's got a story from early South Florida where he grew up, and you're going to know some of the names in this story because it's meant to be spooky. We will get to Naomi Feinstein. As I said, she's reporting some stuff that the Miami Herald should be reporting, but the checks and balances are getting difficult, more and more difficult with local news. and local news resources. So Naomi Feinstein did a good job on a story of another person trying to head into politics who probably shouldn't be anywhere near power. But before we do that, here's Billy Corben spooking you out.
A 6-year-old sandy-haired youngster disappeared from the Sears Hollywood Mall between 12:30 and 1:45 on Monday afternoon and is still missing at this hour.
July 27th, 1981. My mother took me and my little brother to the Sears department store at the Hollywood Mall. It was on Hollywood Boulevard on the north side, less than a mile west of I-95. There's a Target there now. I was 3 years old. My brother was 6 months old. He was in a stroller, and I was a 3-year-old running amok in Sears. There was a toy department, there was electronics, there was video games, there was clothes, and as a kid, what I like to do is run around and the clothing racks. There's kind of a hollow interior, a hollow middle, and you can sneak behind the clothes, kind of duck under there, and you can stand up as a 3-year-old and kind of peek out. And I watch my mother shopping around and pushing my brother on the stroller, and I was hiding from her. She was looking around and didn't see me. And she starts calling out, "Billy, Billy," and I'm giggling my ass off, hiding between these clothes, peeking out at her. I can see her the whole time, and she's starting to panic. "Billy, Billy." I jumped out from behind the clothes to, say boo or surprise or whatever. And she was pissed. I mean, she was pissed because she was scared. That was it. That was the end of our mall day. She was pushing my brother with one hand. She had me by the wrist, dragging me through Sears department store by the other hand. And she is saying, "Don't you ever do that to me. That was so scary. I didn't know where you were. I didn't know what happened to you." And just as we're about to leave Sears, an announcement comes over the PA. "Attention shoppers, Adam Walsh, if you can hear this message, your mother is looking for you.
We'd like you shoppers to help us find Adam Walsh."
And my mother goes, "You see? You hear that? Somebody's mother can't find her son in the store, and she is scared and frantic like I am." Adam Walsh was a 6-year-old boy who was with his mother at Sears at the Hollywood Mall that very same day. She went off to look at lamps, I believe, in the whole lighting section of the store. And she left Adam playing, I think, an Atari video game system in like the electronics section of the store. And he disappeared.
Police say 6-year-old Adam Walsh is missing a front tooth. He was last seen wearing a beige canvas hat at the Hollywood Mall. Tonight, members of the Citizens Crime Watch of Hollywood continue to search for young Adam. Hollywood police detectives track down leads and help groups out scouring the area.
We've invited his parents, John and Reve Walsh, to be in Channel 4 studio in the hope that their words might be heard by the person or persons who police believe abducted young Adam.
We love Adam very much, and we have no vengeance for the people that have Adam. We do not want to prosecute the people. We just want our son back.
And just in case whoever took him wants to drop him off at the mall, they left the family's car in the same spot it was Monday when Adam left it, waiting for Adam to take him home.
And it was, at the time, the most sensational and highly publicized missing child case in the history of this country.
It's been a frustrating 5 days since 6-year-old Adam Walsh was last seen.
Adam is still missing.
We've searched and searched for Adam, and we haven't found a body, so everybody thinks he's alive. We do too.
Two weeks later, Adam Walsh's head was found.
2 fishermen found the remains of Adam Walsh's skull in this canal near Vero Beach, more than 100 miles north of his Hollywood home. Positive identification was made through dental records.
I don't know who would do this to a 6-year-old child. I can't conceive of it. It's beyond the realm of reality.
His body has never been found. His father, John Walsh, obviously became extremely famous for taking on the mission of missing and exploited children, later fugitives through his series America's Most Wanted. But at that time, there was a TV movie called Adam that aired in 1983 on NBC.
They were a loving, happy family until their son disappeared.
I've searched the whole mall and I can't find him.
Every parent's fear becomes the movie you must see.
The 1-2 punch of the case of Adam Walsh, and then this TV movie, which was watched by 38 million people the first time, and NBC aired it every single year thereafter for like 3 or 4 or 5 years. And during the show, during the commercial breaks, they would show photos of missing children.
I'm John Walsh. Our children are safer by the president's signing of the Missing Children Assistance Act of 1984.
It's too late for our Adam, but it's not too late for the thousands of children who are still out there.
What happened from there was basically we'll call it a mass panic. Misinformation, fear, and paranoia kind of gripped the country.
That's not Jenny's dad. If she gets into that car, you may be looking at Jenny for the last time. I'm McGruff, the crime dog.
There was a statistic put out at the time that later in a Pulitzer Prize-winning investigation was found to be total bunk. And the statistic said that 20,000 children go missing every year in stranger abductions.
20,000 kids, one kid at a time, maybe your kid, on your street.
It turned out the real number was closer to like 70. Most child abductions are by people that are known to the person. A parent or a family member takes them. Stranger abductions were not nearly the plague that they were made out to be as a result of this horrific tragedy and crime that happened in South Florida with the Adam Walsh murder. We all became afraid of a boogeyman, basically. One of the suspects in the murder was a drifter and prostitute by the name of Otis Toole.
Otis Toole, a drifter and violent pedophile.
Guy was born in Jacksonville and made his way across the Southeast. He had an IQ of about 75, certainly was a challenged individual, and left a wake of dead people and crimes behind him everywhere he went. He was an associate of another known serial killer by the name of Henry Lee Lucas. Both of them unquestionably murderers who eventually died in prison, but they also were kind of, how should I say, fabulists. They liked to embellish their crimes and adventures, and in fact falsely confessed to numerous crimes.
How many crimes have you confessed to, Otis?
I don't know. I ain't counting.
More than 125?
I don't know.
I see you smiling.
One of the crimes that Otis Toole confessed to was the kidnapping and murder of Adam Walsh. Henry Lee Lucas claimed that he had witnessed part of this and had been in possession of Adam's head for part of those 2 weeks in between the kidnapping and discovery of Adam's head. They both later almost immediately recanted. There was never any witnesses, there was never any additional physical evidence or DNA. And in 2008, long after Toole died, the Hollywood police closed the case.
It is our determination and conclusion that Otis Toole was the abductor and murderer of Adam Walsh.
But through the years, a very compelling theory has arisen. It turns out that that year and that summer of 1981, Jeffrey Dahmer was living in Sunny Isles, Florida, just a few miles away from the Hollywood Mall. Jeffrey Dahmer had committed at least one murder at that time that we are now aware of. He was working at a sandwich shop, and Dahmer had access to a van, like a blue delivery van that the sub shop had, while Jeffrey Dahmer was living in South Florida. There was an attempted kidnapping at a mall in Palm Beach, Florida, of a young boy. The boy was able to get away. Similar to Adam Walsh, he was playing a video game in a store. Someone tried to abduct him. Young man, that man got away. And there is a sketch of that suspect.
The suspect is described as being a white male in his mid-20s, 5 foot 10 inches tall, 200 pounds, of medium complexion, and having dark brown to black hair.
And if you look at that sketch next to a photo or mugshot of Jeffrey Dahmer from that time period, the resemblance is striking. Dahmer was asked about the Adam Walsh murder at the time that he was arrested in the early 90s. He denied that he had anything to do with it, but he was very afraid of the death penalty in Florida. No statute of limitations on murder, and in those days they were still frying people in Old Sparky in Rayford Stark. And so Dahmer was not going to confess to any murders that would put him in a death penalty state. And so while the police have closed the case and while the Walsh family is content with the results of that investigation, the legend, if you will, the mystery, the fear that those of us of a certain age who were growing up, not only in America, but specifically in Florida and South Florida in those days, the fear of the Adam Walsh story lives on, I think, in all of our hearts and minds. It's something I think of incredibly frequently, not the least of which is because, as my mother frequently reminded me through the years, I could have been that victim. I could have been Adam Walsh that day in July of 1981.
Coming up next, we talk to Naomi Feinstein of the Miami New Times and wonder why it is the Miami Herald isn't reporting more around the story that she reported about, which is another kook trying to get into Miami government, even by the substandards of Because Miami, the podcast and just the things that happen in Miami. Our next story, I think, is insane by any definition. So Naomi Feinstein is going to be on with us here in a second. She's from the Miami New Times. I don't understand why the Miami New Times is doing something different with this story than the Miami Herald is doing.
Oh, good question, Dan.
But tell the people, tell the audience what it is that Naomi is reporting on for the Miami New Times, how just a quintessentially Miami person that laughter should just be on the business cards of this person, this it boy, it boy, erstwhile it boy. Tell me
missing an SH from that.
Tell me about the it boy. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I know it's Fabian, and is it Basabe?
Basabe, like wasabi, but with a B.
Okay, before we get to Naomi, explain to us both the journalistic elements of this, why the Miami New Times is doing a better job with this story than the Miami Herald is, and just tell us about his specifically Miami past.
I mean, this guy has been a character in South Beach for quite some time. He's been in and out of the South Beach club scene. His family owned hotels, the Boulevard and the Breakwater in South Beach. And so he's always just been kind of like, and even by his own self-description, like this annoying rich boy who just, the kind of guy who gets arrested for jumping on top of a car so he could, quote, make a fabulous entrance to Club Twist, a very popular gay club down here in South Beach. And just, I mean, a guy who, Naomi, correct me if I'm wrong, whenever he doesn't get let into a nightclub in Miami or New York, he just starts yelling the N-word at the bouncer. Am I wrong?
There's been 2 incidences where he was accused. I spoke to Fabian. He, as you can see in the article, he flat out denies that this happened. But I just kind of reported it because it's obviously been covered extensively, but he denies it outright.
I'm aware of at least 3 of those incidents, and you don't, I mean, maybe once,
She
maybe
said there were 2.
That she was able to document. All right, but there's obviously a lot more chisme out there on the street, Stan, than there may be printed in the paper.
Let's do journalism instead of chisme.
Ay, Dios mío.
Not chisme, which is you're making it sound like a cheese tray of some sort. You've given us one of the interesting
hamoni chisme
things about Fabian, but there are many more. And
most interestingly, and being reported for the first time with any detail anywhere. Okay, and let me be quite clear. the Miami Herald editorial board endorsed this man during the primary. The Miami Herald editorial board, knowing little to nothing about him, doing little to no journalism or research, endorsed a man who just recently, just last year was kicked off the ballot because he lied about his address and where he voted. He lived in Bay Harbor, was trying to run for Miami Beach Commission, so was removed from the ballot for being a liar, okay? And second, and I'll let Naomi give you the details, was arrested for strong arm robbery, fled the jurisdiction, and was captured at gunpoint by the U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force and returned to Miami. And the Miami Herald endorsed him in the primary.
How is it that you mention both of the stories, one using the N-word and making fabulous entrances, and the
His
other
words, not
about
mine.
lying about an address, before the last bit of information that you gave us, which Naomi was reporting for the first time? So take us through what happened there, Naomi. And sorry to get to you so slowly. There's just a lot. There's a lot here. So please tell me first about the last story that Billy mentioned.
Yeah, don't worry. So basically, a lot. I don't know if many of you probably saw on Twitter. There's a lot going on there where people were going back and forth about this, and the police report was being tweeted out everywhere. So I got the police report, and basically, according to the police report, Fabian was accused of strong arm robbery. Basically, what happened was, as I spoke to him, he told me that he was sitting by the pool during peak COVID 2020 in June, and he had a group of his friends and his family sitting by the pool, approved by the condo association, condominium. And basically, as he was sitting there with his family, he said a woman came up and started filming them and harassing them, as he said. So because of that, he asked her to stop filming. He says she wouldn't. So he told me he had to stop the harassment. So he grabbed the woman's phone and threw it into the bay. He said he offered to reimburse her. She declined, and she basically wanted to pursue charges. He told me he left the pool area because he wanted to stop the harassment. He told me he did not, and then he told me he went back to his apartment, and then he didn't really hear anything, he says. Turns out
Naomi, you're being very responsible, very journalistic by telling his side of the story.
Yes.
I'm not so interested in his side of the story. I'd be more interested in your reported truth.
Okay.
You're being very careful, very nice, very objective.
Yes.
Stop it.
Wait a second. You're always bitching about there's not enough objective journalism on this show.
Happened.
And now you want the cheese me? Now you want the cheese me?
I want the objective person to tell me what this fool actually did. Because why would someone come around filming him just for no reason? Who the hell wants to film this guy? Is it because he's an erstwhile it boy?
So basically, the police report said he snatched the phone, threw it into the bay, and they reported that he fled the scene and would not come back to the cops to talk to them. Basically, she pursued charges. They charged him with strong arm robbery. They told him 4 days later, they told him to come surrender to the police station. One detective said he refused. So then he never showed up. And then eventually in August, in July, basically, they got a wiretap for his phone. They located him on his private boat in Charleston, South Carolina. And basically, I think around 7 U.S. Marshals with rifles surrounded his boat and arrested him on robbery. Again, he tells me that he did not flee. He had no idea the arrest warrant was out for him. For his arrest. And so that's kind of what happened and why he was arrested.
This guy, before he was suddenly a Republican politician, was made famous like 20 years ago on E! Television, Young, Rich, and Famous, and then on a show called Filthy Rich Cattle Drive about rich kids working on a ranch. I guess all, what do you want? I guess all born out of that, that moment with Paris Hilton and like Nicole Richie, and it's just like rich people doing like acting like pores, like that whole movement.
The genre
of rich
the
kids
genre
acting like pores, pretending to be pores.
Your disdain for him is
hang on
clear.
a second. No, but the disdain is this idea that the guy got a one-way ticket on Con Air, okay? This guy, and the Herald endorsed him. Okay, they haven't endorsed him now, to be fair, in the general, but they endorsed him in the primary and have yet to correct the record, by the way. They have had nothing to say about this. They have no retraction. They have nothing to say about They haven't even reported effectively on this. And I don't even think they've gotten the public records requests that Naomi has gotten with the police reports. But this was a bitchy guy acting bitchy, crossing paths with a condo commando, basically, at the pool, right?
You never want to run into those in South Florida.
You don't. But here's the thing. The Miami Beach Police Department, as evidenced by Chris Brown, as evidenced by Conor McGregor, when someone grabs a cell phone from somebody and throws it on the ground, or in this case, throws it in the fucking bay, this woman's cell phone, they take that very seriously. They don't just look at it like, oh, this was a destruction of property. But not only is that a strong arm robbery, because this guy put his hands on this woman to steal her phone, but let's be real, this is the most important device in all of our lives. It has our finances, it has our communication with our family, our children, emergency services. So the beach doesn't screw around with this. And this woman wanted to file up a report and press charges, which is her right. It was caught on video. I think we should show the surveillance video from the condo so you can get a sense of just and what Fabian says happened. What he told Naomi, what he told the Miami Herald editorial board does not jive with what is on this surveillance video.
Well, this is a liar. This is a politician.
He's a fabulist, Dan. He's a fabulist.
What else,
Naomi? He puts the
Naomi?
fabulous into fabulist if you ask him. But the bottom line is the police said, hey, man, come out of your apartment. Let's talk about this. We have a complaint. And he said, go pound sand, bitches.
Yes.
I'm going to get on my private boat and sail the high seas. And the Miami Beach Police Department said, what would happen to any of us? You can't just tell the police department to go pound sand. So the police department called the U.S. Marshals, and they sent the fugitive task force with rifles to collect a man accused of a serious felony here.
Naomi, your thoughts and additional reporting that you did around this, what else did you find most noteworthy about the details in this story?
In this particular incident, you're saying, or in general?
Just everything going. Like, take off your objective hat for a moment, if you can, and give me what your opinion is, if you could, about what it is that is happening here. Not the journalistic part of this. Billy will handle ripping the Miami Herald's laziness for you, but just the
institutional failure,
the idea,
malpractice
of this person possibly being in state office.
Well, the reason why I kind of reported it is even on the face is because you see Fabian, who has really no background in politics. And he told me like he wasn't really interested in the politics, for instance, but like here he comes wanting to run for state house, which is really interesting. And even when you look at his like donation records, he has no interest. He has not really have any documented donations aside from really his own campaign. But I don't know. I think it's just like, when I saw it, I'm like, this is classic Miami. I kind of had to go for it because there's really nothing more that best encapsulates Miami than this story. The former It Boy, former male version of Paris Hilton trying to make a run for state house. I don't know. I think that's what kind of appealed to me. And I kind of did the rest of my reporting to tell the story in terms of the police reports, the previous coverage, talking to him. I think kind of, even besides taking me away from my own writing, I think kind of tells a story within itself.
And if you look at his publicly disclosed financial disclosure forms, he has zero in income. Zero in income. He alleges that he mortgaged a property that he owns for the $250,000 that, as Naomi mentioned, he donated himself to his campaign to run this campaign, but has no income. It's unclear how he takes care of his wife, his kid, pays his rent. I understand his wife is from a wealthy and successful family as well. But this guy's running for office with no income. Is that what we need? Another politician in office with no legitimate reported source of income?
No income, no experience, no credentials,
wants to go to the
no
Florida
resume,
House
no resume.
to represent you, Dan. He would be, I think he was in I think you might live in his district, and he would represent you at the Florida State House.
Why is he doing this?
He wants to make a fabulous entrance to Twist. That's what he said. Isn't that what the police report said?
It's kind of up to the reader how they and they're making their own conclusions. But he said to me he hates all the hate in the world and all the partisanship, and he really wants to get rid of all of the hate and the evil and everything that's going on in politics, and kind of wants to bridge the divide, as he says.
He wants to get rid of all the hate, except if you don't let him in a nightclub, Dan. And you happen to be a person of color, then you are the N-word.
Except his hate.
That's the only hate that he doesn't want to get rid of, apparently. But really, he just wants to make a fabulous entrance into.
You mentioned
into
that.
Twist.
Naomi, thank you for being on with us. We appreciate the time.
Thank you, guys.
I don't love that she's doing better work than the Miami Herald. Miami Herald, what is the Miami Herald doing endorsing this? It's just laziness. Someone didn't do research, correct?
Absolutely. That's what I said. It's malpractice. I mean, they just did. And now they're ignoring it. They're trying to pretend this was brought to their attention. Incidentally, I think at the same time it was brought to Naomi and Miami New Times' attention. And yet they're just kind of sitting around well, maybe if we just put our head in the sand, no one will know what a bunch of screw-ups we are here, and we never have to bring this up again. And now Naomi is kind of unintentionally putting the Miami Herald on blast for their own systemic failure. And I mean, they have a reporter whose full-time job it is to cover the city of Miami Beach. Miami New Times doesn't have those kinds of resources, and yet they have now done a better job covering. And this is not... listen, I know it's fun. I know it's super because Miami. I know it's super cheesy, May. But it is serious, because if we don't call out unqualified clowns that are running for office, then we're just going to let this whole thing turn into WWE and popular entertainment, rather than saying we need serious people to solve serious problems and to do public service for the people. This is this ain't it. This it, boy. This ain't it.
Before we get out of here for the week, it is a big week, a big end of the month, big beginning of the month for you, because a documentary that you've been working painstakingly on for a while, God forbid, is about to debut on Hulu. You have been premiering it here and beyond. What do you want to tell people before we get out of here for the week? I've seen it. It's wonderful. It's a story of lechery, of Miami, of religion, of politics,
of real estate,
of power, of real estate. It is
because Miami,
yeah, and because America, and because God, and because church. You could have called this any number of things. You called it God forbid. What do you want people to know before they watch the movie premiere on Hulu? What date? First week of November.
November 1st. I wanted to call it Cuckold Cowboys, but Hulu was like, nah, I don't think we can do that. Disney's a tough nut to crack. No pun intended, by the way.
I would have loved for it to just be called Cuck.
We had a lot of holy fuck, but with 2 asterisks. Holy F asterisk K was one of the
For those of you who do not know, Jerry Falwell Jr. liked to watch his wife have sex with a young Miami pool boy while pleasuring himself in the corner of a Days Inn.
Allegedly. So while on vacation in Miami, Jerry Falwell Jr., the president of Liberty, the largest Christian university in the world, the first lady of Liberty, Becky Falwell, like to take the private jet of the school down to Miami, to the Bahamas, and live their best life, despite the fact that Liberty University has a very strict, some would argue even puritanical code of conduct called the Liberty Way, dictating how students and faculty can behave. No drinking, no sex outside marriage, no profanity, no R-rated movies, no dancing.
You love the hypocrisy of this.
Well, let me tell you this. The fact that they allegedly picked up this 20-year-old pool attendant working at the Fontainebleau to put himself through FIU to put himself through college.
There are 100,000 of those people in Miami.
Come to Miami and live your best life, Dan. I don't want to kink shame these people. Whatever they're into, they seem like party people, dude. They seem like a lot of fun. I'd love to hop on the private jet and go to the Bahamas and Miami Beach, and they're very generous. They'll pick up the tab, and they went out with their adult children partying at nightclubs all over South Beach, by the way, while they're punishing students in their care at Liberty for doing exactly the same thing. But I don't care what their kink is. That's what Miami's all about, right? I mean, Miami is about coming here and what happens in Miami stays in Miami. Spend some money, party, have consensual, safe sex. I don't care. They apparently, according to Giancarlo, the former pool attendant, they had visited Miami Velvet, the famous swingers club that Roger Stone used to hang out at. They didn't like that scene. It was too public and creepy, and so they wanted a private arrangement, and so they picked up this guy, and allegedly Jerry Jr. liked to watch from the corner, doing other things as well from over there. And again, God bless them. The hypocrisy, though, is the problem. And the idea that this is the exact kind of conduct that they are punishing students for financially. They're threatening their academic futures.
Well, but beyond that, and look, I am telling the audience they should watch this film. It's very good. But you make a logic leap into this is how Donald Trump became the endorsed candidate of the church, was because you make a logic leap that because Michael Cohen, Trump's attorney, now this is not explicitly stated in the film, but because Trump's dirtiest dirt guy might have known about this arrangement between Falwell and the pool boy that was detrimental to the Falwell empire, that may have been why it is that the church endorsed Trump.
Well, I don't know that it's a logic leap, because there is a straight line there that we can draw that Jerry Falwell Jr. was, in fact, the first evangelical leader to endorse Donald Trump, a man twice divorced with 5 children with 3 different women, a New York liberal abortionist, pro-choice, a registered Democrat for most of his life, a very unlikely candidate for the religious right in this country. But Jerry Falwell Jr. kicked that door open and made it possible for all of the other evangelicals and Christians to follow suit and make this very unlikely guy, Donald Trump, over Ted Cruz, you'll remember, in the Republican primary in 2016. Ted Cruz, whose dad is in fact a pastor. Ted Cruz, who himself is an evangelical Christian and seemed the obvious choice. He, in fact, announced his candidacy and his campaign for president at Liberty University in one of their giant convocations in the basketball arena with 10,000 students whose attendance is compulsory if you live on campus. So you have this captive audience that Republican politicians in particular have maximized the use of. And so did Jerry Jr. maximize the power and privilege that came along with this a religious position of a multi-billion-dollar Christian university. But the pool boy, as it were, the Giancarlo, it's a term he does not care for, in much the same way I'm sure Monica Lewinsky resents being called an intern, which was a very small part of her life.
I can talk about this movie with you for a very long time, but I did wonder watching it on both Giancarlo's psyche and Falwell and Falwell's wife. The shame that they must feel watching this movie, I cannot imagine how much they fear what this movie is going to say, the 3 of them.
Well, they certainly did a lot together, so I'm sure they could also feel the same emotions together. And
it would be hugely embarrassing for this. I know that part of this is public, but the detail you go into on this, I have not seen anywhere.
I describe it as like the movie Get Out meets The Righteous Gemstones, because Giancarlo really provides us through, if when you hear him tell it, through this honey trap, how he gets drawn into this world.
It's dirty.
Of power and privilege and real estate.
A child, though.
Money.
I recognize him.
20 years old.
No, but yes, 20 years old, but 20-year-old Cuban, I can tell you from experience in this city, you're not actually grown up. Tell the people goodbye. They're going to enjoy this movie. Check it out on Hulu. God forbid. Billy Corben's worked very hard on it, and it is exceptional. We'll talk to you next week.
Cocaine's.
As a pool attendant, I would get hit on, but if I would have known that accepting this woman's invitation to go back to her hotel room would have led to a scandal involving the president of the largest Christian university in the world and the president of the United States, I would have walked away and just enjoyed my private life.
The Falwells are the Southern Gatsbys. They're wealthy,
powerful, with Christian's communications empire.
And they're sloppy.
They have a public image, but behind the scenes, they're freaks. At the time, I didn't really know who they were.
My brother was at the age of one of their sons. He started being friendly with the kids.
They had no idea that their dad liked to record his wife having sex with me.
What is happening?
Becky was in love with this kid. Jerry was looking at keeping his wife happy. They were bringing him into a world he couldn't imagine. Real estate, politics.
He was on top of the world.
I'm like, this is it.
I have never heard of anybody buying some kid that they met at the pool for $4.5 million business. Like, what's going on?
We have a very powerful endorsement coming.
Jerry Falwell Jr.
Trump didn't fit the model of the evangelical candidate. There was some sort of relationship between Falwell, the pool attendant, Trump, and Michael Cohen.
He was paid to dig up dirt on people and control them with that dirt.
I'm screwed.
This is where it became dangerous.
You don't know what lengths people are willing to go when they have so much to lose.
If they wanted to make me disappear, they could do it.
The Falwells are predators. Anytime you have sex and then mix religion, that's some nasty, nasty shit.
It was an atomic scandal. Jerry Falwell writes, I was not involved.
I know the truth about them, and the whole world is going to find out.